So I'm going to be quite practical rather than theoretical and abstract about the existential nature of life as being uncomfortable. When you start being aware, when you take on being aware, there could be lots of reasons for that. And it's very individual, very personal in a way. But the important thing is that you're doing it. You have taken it on. And there's a gesture, I think, which is really good, which is that. It says it all. You roll up your sleeves and just be prepared to get into the process. Get your teeth into it. And there's going to be inevitably ups and downs in the process of becoming aware. You know, there'll be times when you find things difficult in yourself, perhaps from the past or perhaps just in the moment. And you find the way of responding to that in a kind and positive way without deviating or getting thrown off track of being aware and engaged. So it's not inevitable that you're going to find things difficult. You might not, actually. You don't have to think, oh, well, my friend who meditates finding it difficult. What's wrong with me? I don't. You don't have to find it difficult. It's not always, it's not necessary. It's not absolute requirement to find things difficult. And when things really, you're enjoying the aliveness that comes with awareness. You enjoy and relish even the learning process of learning about yourself. What helps, what doesn't help, what messes you up in your decisions and what doesn't. That's part of that process of really engaging. And part of it is actually enjoyment is an important part, even though the general theme is discomfort and suffering. Actually, when you are engaged in the process of being more aware and meditating and being more mindful, you can enjoy life more. And, there's a certain satisfaction that comes even from dealing with difficulties, oddly enough. So I think it's very important to say that. And together with that, say that sometimes when you're practicing, what you might notice is that you have capacity both ways for experiencing more joy, more happiness, more pleasure even, more sense of connectedness than you had, and you have to get used to that. Am I used to being this happy, having this much enjoyment, much vitality? Can I take it? Yeah, you just get used to it, actually. And on the other hand, sometimes when you're in the process of becoming aware, you realize that you can take on an awareness of your own suffering and others' suffering more easily. You become, as it were, more sensitive. I heard a brilliant analogy of this when quite early on, that is the relationship between a little hair being on your hand, is when you're not that aware, you just it's just a hair on your hand, you might not even notice it. But as you become more sensitive, to people's suffering and your own suffering, it's like a hair in the eye, which, well, you know what that's like. It's not at all pleasant. But, you know, you, in a way, you just get used to that, you know, and you can take that and you get capacity for taking on that people do suffer. I mean, a friend of mine just came back from a trip and he had had a taxi driver who was Ukrainian. And as my friend was telling me this morning over breakfast, he was virtually crying, you know, just to hear this man's story. And there is suffering around, you know, it's awful what the things that are happening sometimes. But it's not just that, but your ability to stay in touch with your metta, your kindness, your optimism, your enthusiasm for practice, sort of in a way soften and ameliorate that suffering. So it's not just a hair in the eye. Yeah. So that's a general phase that you can go to. That it just might get difficult for a while. So there are a couple of practical ways that I wanted to talk about in terms of the ways that you can help yourself in a way to avoid unnecessary suffering. So one is really simple and obvious in a way. Notice if you overcomplicate things, overthink things. And if you do, find a way of pulling back from that so that if something is really straightforward and uncomplicated, just keep it simple and uncomplicated rather than adding complication to it, which makes life more difficult, actually. Then there's energy efficiency. And I don't mean gas and electricity. It's like you notice your ups and downs in terms of your vitality, your energy levels. I actually personally like to think of it like a battery. And that when my battery is running down, it's like that ever-ready ad where the rabbit just starts to go with the symbols and just stops. So awareness actually helps you notice when you're running out of energy. And what that does is you can make a choice to just stop if you can, and not just push through that, you know, when the red light comes on, low energy or low battery, but not push, because you just drain yourself and then it's more difficult. So you take the time to rest and recuperate, and it might be short. You might just need 10 minutes, you know, or 20 minutes or whatever, or in some cases a bit longer. But the principle is you notice this rhythm of your energy and you respond to it. And you know, I think a lot of people over push. There's quite a few nods in the room. And it's a real learning point, you know, and it's good to talk about, you know, how do you know, become aware of the over push? It's a habit, actually, very often. And to find ways of just letting go of the over push and the should, you know, I should try harder. let it go, find a different way of approaching the energy levels. So, I'm running through, boing, 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 all these little topics. Staying on task with your values. So in a way, there's two things here. One is staying on task, which is a bit of what we were doing in the meditation, remembering what you're doing and staying with it, keeping the continuity so you can go deeper with it, it can grow, can become satisfying. Job satisfaction, you could say, from following through. A really good example of this is finishing your sentences. I don't know if any of you do this, but I have a few friends who don't finish their sentences. And it means that they never follow through. I'm not looking at you. A few people going. It means you never go deeper with anything. Your mind is flittering around. So you have to really let go of that tendency to jump, but to keep coming back and finishing the sentences. Like I have this friend, he was telling me something, and then just before the crucial word of what he was going to do, he stopped and jumped off something else. I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, what was that word? And he went, oh yeah, get married or whatever. What? Yeah, that's useful information. Come on. So it's keeping on task, following through, staying with. And notice when you say, you know what I mean? No, no idea what you mean. Explain. So if you notice that you're saying, you know what I mean, just check that you have actually explained. I feel fine. You know what I mean? No, what do you mean? What does that mean? But this little rider to staying on task, which I put in with your values, I think it's quite profound. So we do things that fit what matters to us, what is important to us. And I think this is really important, that you don't just do things because you have to, or someone told you to, but does it fit your values of what matters? And this actually is a really big learning point. You find out for yourself what matters to you. So I meditate every morning, for an hour, and because that matters, and I stay with it and keep the continuity through the meditation. You see, the two things come together there. It's not just because good Buddhists meditate. It's not. It really is not. It's because it matters. It has I know that, over the last 50 years, it's had a huge effect on me, a positive effect. And that it's worth it. It's worth the effort, even in the winter, getting up from out under the duvet. It's worth it because it matters. Okay, simple one. In a way, connected to that is avoid multitasking. I know, I know, people are starting to get nervous now. But just a little bit of multitasking? No. When I'm doing online mindfulness classes with companies, you can see they've got like 3 screens up. And I just, trying to train them to turn them all off and just have the one screen. No. And there's something really important about that as an analogy internally, that you have the thing that you're paying attention to, the idea that you're following, the communication that you've got with somebody, and you don't multitask. You don't think about what kind of sushi you're going to have for lunch, or whatever. You just keep it. I hope I'm not giving you ideas. No, I did. Oh dear. Sorry. Okay. Another thing that I think really stops suffering is good time management. You know that you've got certain things that you need to do, and you have a certain amount of forethought about the timing that it's likely to take to do things. And you learn over time not to overstretch and overrun your time. Like I know that I'm in great danger of running over, because all the topics I've got, I'm not halfway through them, not even a tenth of the way through them. So this is a good example. So you think about this in terms of your life, managing your time so that you don't have to rush. Because when you rush, you make mistakes, and when you make mistakes, you suffer. Nice, simple truth in a way. So this next one, sort of interesting, I think. You sometimes need to think about what could go wrong. And you, as much as possible, you guard against what could go wrong. But you have a reasonable sense of what could go wrong. So rather than, hoarding, baked beans for the next 20 years, or something, which I think is unreasonable. You think about what could go wrong, and you take steps to make sure that it doesn't. But in other words, don't look out for your own tendency to catastrophize too much. Oh, that could happen, and that could happen, and then what? And I need a fireproof vest. All kinds of. Let go of that overthinking about what could go wrong, if you do it, and just keep it really straightforward. Because life being what it is, things can go wrong. Even though you do everything that you need to do. It's not, even when people are doing the things that they need to be doing. Okay, so moving on. I think that there's this very interesting thing about when you're doing a task, think about how the next person who's coming along after you, make it easy for them to pick up that task. So you don't pack something away that's so difficult and takes so much time to get out, they then run out of time. I saw a really good example, not of that, but mindfulness really makes you aware of finishing tasks. And one time someone moved into our house, and he vacuumed the house quite late. But what he did was he left the vacuum cleaner at the top of the stairs. He didn't put it away. So I come out 2 o'clock in the morning to go down the stairs with the light off. You can just imagine it, can't you? This thing. I just caught myself and didn't break my neck, So, but he wasn't trying to kill me, was he? No, he wasn't. He was. Damn. So finish things and try and make it easy for the next person coming along. So there's a sort of little mantra, I think, that really helps, that ties in with a lot of the things that I've been talking about, which is keep going. Sometimes things are difficult, but you need to keep going with your thread of being aware, or just getting up and turning up and doing things. So if you notice that, just keep going. It's actually so simple in a way. Not always easy, but you just keep going. You just keep the momentum going in what you need to do to get up to meditate and so on. There's a one here, which is, how many more pages have I got? Oh, right. Okay. So there's a very simple little premise, which I think saves a lot of strife and problem, which is you clear as you go. Like an obvious, simple example of that is the kitchen. Oh yeah, you clear as you go. And then, because then when you're later on, if you haven't cleared and you want to be all creative and create this wonderful dish, but actually you have to do an hour's worth of washing up, when it comes to making that wonderful dish, you're just exhausted and don't feel like you just put the beans on instead. So this is it's not an external thing, but it's an internal thing. You clear worries as you go along. You clear concerns. You're clearing how it's like inner household work. Have you got things that are nagging at you that need clearing, need paying attention to? Like a very obvious one. Let me see if anyone tenses up when I say this. Did I do my tax return? Because, fortunately, if it's online, you've still got time. So you clear things that need to be done as you don't let them go. And this really saves a lot of suffering in the long term, a lot of strife. Oh, I'm getting there. You take responsibility for your responses to things. If something is going on or someone says something or a situation and you respond, it's difficult or hard or you don't like it, you take responsibility for that. And this avoids that terrible syndrome of just blaming and whinging. They should have. Just take responsibility for your responsibility, what you're feeling and how you handle that. And it saves a lot of trouble, a lot of problems doing that. Nearly there. Okay, I'm there, almost. So finally, wow. Finally, have as your aim to have as much a sense of metta or care, kindness, and consideration for others as possible. Just be kind, be considerate. And it's just amazing how it just makes life easier. It just does. There might be some nagging voice that, well, they'll only take advantage of you. No, that very rarely happens, actually. Just be kind, just be considerate. Be notice, this is sort of connected, but notice when someone has done something that benefits you, and feel the sense of gratitude from that awareness. But they, you really couldn't have done that without them, or, and you just feel that feeling of, well, thank you, is a real feeling. Feel that. That's really important. And people, in a way, we need to hear that. We need to hear the gratitude. So, amazing. I did it. I got through my whole list pretty much. I missed one, which is just do what you can. Do your best in the situation, and I'm doing my best. I'm doing what I can, rather than it should be better. That's a really important way of avoiding giving yourself unnecessary strife.